I'm going to play a video after this of Hawk talking about Joe Rogan, Kamala Harris, and Tony Hinchcliffe. And it turns out that Tony Hinchcliffe was recommended by Joe Rogan to the Trump campaign in August to write jokes. It makes sense. Joe Rogan is, amongst many things that he has wrong with him, he does work with young comedians and help promote them. And Tony Hinchcliffe is in his 30s and Joe Rogan's like 3 years older than me. I think he's 57, 58, kind of in that range. So yeah, it makes sense. And it gives you a perspective on bad advice being given on top of bad advice, because Tony used to write for the WWE as well. Like, he can write, and he wrote for the audience, I'm assuming, that they had. He wrote offensive jokes for people that have offensive feelings. The problem was they said it out loud 10 days before an election.
Buddy, 1 week from today. Oh boy, how's everybody doing? Joe Rogan's catching a lot of flack this morning because apparently Kamala's campaign had offered to do an interview with him, but they needed him to travel to her and sit down for a 1 hour long interview. And he was like, I just think it's really important that the interview take place in my studio and that it be 3 hours long. And I really hope that we can work that out. Not realizing or even grasping in the slightest that every journalist in the United States would cut off one of their arms to get an hour-long sit-down with the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. One commenter was just like, Jesus, dude, do the interview, man. This is the height of arrogance on your part. Hard to disagree with that. I think Mr. Rogan thinks he's a lot more important than he is. And another commentator was like, he needs this interview more than she does. This would bring a vast new audience of people to his podcast who've never sat through one of his 3 hour long interviews. And it would be way more beneficial for him than it would be for her. And then we got this little tidbit. Guess whose idea it was for the Trump campaign to start working with that comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, who gave all of those incredibly racist jokes at Madison Square Garden? Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan suggested Tony Hinchcliffe to Donald Trump back in August and said, you should work with this guy and have him write some material for your campaign. So they did. Oh, maybe Joe Rogan helped out Kamala's campaign after all. Have a good Wednesday, everybody.